Hey, this is Kieran. I'm going to show you A-Frame City and how we might be able to connect it to Streetmix. So this is a WebVR project. Go to the GitHub page that uses a framework called A-Frame, which makes it easy to make WebVR applications. And using A-Frame, put together a pretty basic little model editor where you can place models into a city. So the application itself looks something like this. You use your VR controller, and then there's different base plates that you can choose from, and you can place them down. So we could place this one kind of inspired by Valencia Street, and place an intersection. If I can get far enough. You get the picture. So that can be saved then as a JSON file, and that looks pretty simple. So here's an example of how a city is saved. So you can save and load cities. So if we reload this page, we can load the example city as a JSON file, and you can actually navigate with the WASD controls on your keyboard even if you don't have a VR headset. And you can see an example scene with a car accident. So that scene is made up of a very simple JSON file that defines each object and assigns it a position, rotation, and a scale. So one idea was to look at the format that Streetmix uses for defining a street. So here's an example one that I just threw together, and then here's the JSON representation on the back end. And I'm curious what the back end is that you guys are using. Anyway, so you could imagine that you could take each segment, and these types are pretty high level. So for each of these different types, we could actually have a 3D representation. And I've been using Magic of Voxel. It's a pretty easy tool to use. It's free, and is a nice workflow for getting files into WebVR. So with Magic of Voxel, I'll show you an example of one of the streets here. So what we could do is simply, for each of these, let's use drive lane as the simplest example. You could imagine you can take just this portion, save this as its own file, and let's do that right now. So we'll cut this, erase everything, paste in this, and then we're going to fit this to the model size. So then we could export this. This is just the drive lane, and we can then essentially have a function that is similar to the one that parses these 3D files, and that's located in the index file of this project here. So if we go down to see load file button, load clicked, where is that actually done? Okay. So this is the function that actually adds each of the objects from this JSON file to the scene. Load file button. Yeah, so it just loads. That's pretty simple. Anyway, so basically this is the magic for each of those JSON objects. It runs through this function and adds it to the scene. So we could imagine that there'd be a way to take the Streetmix objects and map that to 3D objects. That would be pretty easy. Another way, you could just create a script that just parses the Streetmix and then creates a city builder output. So what we'll need to do is make essentially the strips, again like this example of a drive lane. We need to take each of these and we need to make 3D representation, and I presume there's a lot of them, like 30 or 40 if you think of all the different permutations, not including the variants, which is another level of effort. But we could just focus on some basic ones like drive lanes, bike lanes, sidewalk also we can do. Those are stored in a separate tile, so the way the tile system works, the building and the sidewalk is separate, but we can still do the exact same thing and select the sidewalk. But you get the picture, so let me know if this is something that you're interested in collaborating in, and we can make cool 3D things.